the barcode file. Eliminate all style. Convert them one by one and hope they don't fight back. No dream, no destiny. No fate, just property. Owned and processed, no rebellious attack. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer. Create a cyber wall. The human race will fall. An android lover with the holy lion song. No colors, fragile mind. The death of storylines. Automatic chromosomes would be appalled. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer. You take my hope, all my dreams, selfish killer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Please have a seat. I'm glad I've been promoted to scientist-in-chief. Given my grades in physics, I'm not sure it's deserving, but I hold science in proper esteem, so maybe that gives me a little credit. And the BRAIN Initiative will change that by giving scientists the tools they need to get a dynamic picture of the brain in action and better understand how we think and how we learn and how we remember. And that knowledge will be transformative. I'm directing my bioethics commission to make sure all of the research is being done in a responsible way. And we're also partnering with the private sector, including leading companies and foundations and research institutions, to tap the nation's brightest minds to help us reach our goal. That's why this BRAIN Initiative is so important. And if we keep taking bold steps like the one we're talking about to learn about the brain, then I'm confident America will continue to lead the world in the next frontiers of human understanding. And all of you are going to help us get there. So I'm very excited about this project. Francis, let's get to work. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Elon Musk wants to download your brain. He's the entrepreneur behind Tesla cars and SpaceX, of course, but he's troubled by where artificial intelligence is leading humanity. So he's trying to stay one step ahead with an idea to implant our brains with computer chips. For some people, it's a sci-fi step too far.
Elon Musk's new project, Neuralink, has been making headlines recently, but very little is known about this mysterious company so far. We're going to answer the question, what is Neuralink? And let you know why you should be paying very close attention. So, what is Neuralink? Back in 2015, Professor Pedram Mozzini and Rudolph J. Nudo created a startup called Neuralink. These pair of neurotech researchers had developed a device that could potentially help people suffering from brain injuries. Investors didn't show a great deal of interest, but in 2016, a mysterious unknown investor came along with an offer to purchase the rights to the name Neuralink for tens of thousands of dollars. They sold, and that investor later turned out to be multi-billionaire Elon Musk. Fast forward to the 27th of March 2017, and Musk announces that he will be backing a new brain-computer interface venture, Neuralink. The ultimate goal of this company is to merge man with machine, fusing human intelligence with artificial intelligence to bring humanity up to a higher level of cognitive reasoning. Without this technology, Musk argues that humans will be unable to keep pace with advances in artificial intelligence, and that humans will become the intellectual equivalent of the house cat. So far, Musk has been calling this brain-computer interface technology neural lace. In essence, neural lace is an ultra-thin mesh that is implanted into the skull and forms a body of electrodes which are able to monitor brain function. It's not entirely clear at this time how far along the technology is in its development phase, but eventually, neural lace should enable humans to upload or download information directly from a computer, just like Neo from the Matrix. In a matter of minutes, you too could proclaim,
"I know Kung Fu."
Show me.
In order to insert neural lace, a tiny needle which contains a rolled up mesh is placed inside the skull, whereby the mesh is then injected. The mesh unravels upon injection, encompassing the brain. Gradually, the neural lace will integrate itself with the human brain, creating the perfect symbiosis between man and machine. So far, neural lace has been tested on live mice. Upon autopsy, researchers found little negative consequences associated with the insertion of this mesh-like structure. However, I'm not sure if I want to be the first human volunteer. This technology sounds amazing. The ability to hook our brains up with machines and thereby enhance human intelligence could open up whole new worlds of possibilities for our species. It could even be the catalyst for the almost mythical technological singularity. More on this at another time. Some critics are raising concerns about the ethical and real-world implications and consequences of this technology. For example, in a world where everyone's thoughts are connected to the internet, how would this affect our personal privacy? Would authoritarian governments seize upon the opportunity to spy on us, or even take control of our minds? And what about computer hackers? Would they be able to exploit vulnerabilities in the software of our minds or inject viruses directly into our consciousness? All of this remains to be seen. Until then, let's just be content that Musk's Neuralink may be able to help the disabled and those suffering from brain injuries to lead more productive and happier lives in the not too distant future.
Musk announced his project on Twitter, and the reactions came quick. It's hoped that this new technology might help combat eating disorders or depression and maybe the effects of Parkinson's disease, although obviously such operations on people's brains have their significant risks. Behind it all, though, is Musk's suspicions against AI. In 2015, he donated $10 million to a movement to stop artificial intelligence from turning against humans. Let's talk about it now. We've got future technology experts and philosophers Nick Bostrom and Gray Scott. Gentlemen, really good to have you on the programme to talk about this. Gray, first of all, pitchforks are waved at progress throughout history. But let's be honest, more people have seen The Matrix and The Terminator than read news scientists. Why shouldn't they be worried about having computer-controlled brains?
Well, first of all, we have to remember that we are a long way from the Matrix. Even if we wanted to do that now, it's just not possible.
When you build a building, you have a set of blueprints, and an architect and engineers sit down and design a communication system, plumbing, air conditioning, all of that. In the brain, we're actually trying to reverse engineer that in a way. We actually don't have the blueprint.
Possibly the most complex entity in the entire universe. There's microarchitecture, nanoarchitecture, macroarchitecture, and then there's the function of the brain, which we observe in everything we do when we interact.
As humans, we have this intellectual curiosity about what makes us different. It's all related to our brain circuits. Getting the tools to allow us to see circuit activity in action and then apply it to problems that no one's been able to solve before would be a tremendous advance.
We all have a brain, and we want to understand that brain better. Get the scientists from different communities, different cultures, different emphases together. They'll start forming their collaborations organically. To do that type of sharing, you don't need a big bureaucracy. You don't need a lot of complexity. You just need to talk to each other.
No one person, or even small number of people, have the expertise in terms of anatomy, physiology, computation, theory, mathematics. We can all act synergistically to come to a better model of what's going on.
Every one of us have been touched, either directly or indirectly, by mental conditions. And the fact that we don't have answers for a lot of these things, we don't know how to cure depression, we don't know how to treat Alzheimer's, we don't know how to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. When you have diversity in a group, you would take in the advice, experience, expertise from others, and that, I think, at the end will end up enriching whatever you're trying to build.
Brain Initiative combine the science and engineering together to develop the tool which can impact the neuroscience community, interrogating the signal connectivity, how these single neuron will be connecting to the next neuron, how memory is being really formed and retrieved, deeply understand the last frontier of our mystery of the brain.
For researchers, oftentimes there's questions of funding, there's questions of relevance, and foundations can say, we're committed to this work because we're doing this work. We're putting our mouths where our money is and our money where our mouth is.
If we as a government don't fund basic science, who's going to do it? Better outcomes for patients and for all of us, whether you are diagnosed with a disease or not. It's going to save us a lot in the long run as far as healthcare costs.
Let's get all the stakeholders, industry, government, academics, lawyers, doctors, people from all parts of life, and let's come up with a structure to help people in the greatest need.
What would happen if we put this, and that together? If it actually worked, it could really advance things. And in terms of the research that we do in neuroscience, I think the Brain Initiatives enabled that kind of high risk, high reward.
We should just get people together to pursue this goal that is much greater than any one of us individual professors or scientists. What could be more interesting than understanding what the ingredients to consciousness are? That's our vision.
These are the primary stages. What Elon Musk is talking about is the primary stage of trying to use the brain to control other machines. So you won't be able to download a library into your brain anytime soon.
My name is Neil Harbison, and I'm one of the founders of the Cyborg Foundation. And I'm a cyborg. To us, a cyborg is a feeling. It's feeling that you're not using technology, that you're not wearing technology. It's feeling that you are technology.
Neil Harbison was born completely colorblind. And while Neil still can't see color, a device called the iBorg allows him to hear and sense colors.
It picks up the dominant color in front of me, and then it transposes this frequency of light into the frequency of sound, so it's related to the frequency of light. It's not an arbitrary relation. This light frequency has a specific note, which is the note that I hear, but a few octaves lower, so that it's in the audible range.
Neil has been able to hear color through bone conduction since 2004, when he convinced a doctor to anonymously perform a drastic surgery.
My head was drilled 4 times so that I could have the antenna integrated, so it goes inside my skull. So I actually feel cyborg. I feel that even if I touch the antenna, I feel it's like a part of my body. It really feels like a new body part. There's no way of removing it. So it's just like other animals, they have antennas. I decided that I would have an antenna as well.
Neil says the iBorg has expanded his senses beyond normal human capability.
I decided to include infrared colors and ultraviolets, which are invisible to the human eye, but that they can be perceived through our third eyes. And then once this became normal, I didn't see why I should only perceive the colors that I have in front of me. So I decided to have Bluetooth so I could receive colors from other places of the planet.
Neil isn't the only cyborg on this planet. Professor Kevin Warwick implanted a chip in his arm in 1998.
A radio frequency identification device.
Entrepreneur Emil Grafstra, with RFID chips in each of his hands, can unlock his car or computer with a single wave. His company, Dangerous Things, sells do-it-yourself body hacking kits. Some gamers are in on the action too, using brain stimulators to gain superhuman focus. Bionics researcher Michael McAlpine sees this type of technology advancing into the mainstream.
Up till now, I think most people have thought of bionics as people who have impaired capabilities like lost sight, giving them the ability to repair those capabilities. But going forward, I think there is the possibility if you can do that, then you can also take that to the next step and actually give normal human advanced capabilities that biology never gave them, and perhaps let them do what maybe only certain animals can do, or maybe let them do what no one can do.
Neil Harbison's experience shows how quickly technology is transforming culture.
Social reaction has changed over the years. So in 2004, people thought it was a light. Later, people started to think it was a microphone. 2006, I think they thought it was for chatting. Then 2009, people started to think it was a hands-free phone. So they thought it was a new telephone. Now people think it's something to do with Google Glass. So it's changed over the years. Now people think that I'm actually filming them, which is creates uncomfortable situations. So I'm thinking of changing the image, and I might just move the sensor down so that it creates less confrontation with people that might think that I'm actually filming them. But I'm sure that in 2-3 years, people will think it's something else. It keeps changing.
Although some people still don't know how to react to the antenna, times are changing.
I think we are now entering the age of transition into cyber, so we'll see more wearable technology becoming accepted and normalized. Once wearing technology becomes something normal, we'll start seeing the transition into implanting the technology. People will start accepting this more. So in the 20s, the late 20s, we'll see more and more projects with new body parts and new senses. And I believe that in the 40s, it will be normal to have technology implanted. So it will be normal to merge humans and technology and to unite cybernetics and organisms. I'm sure it will be normal to meet someone and ask, what are your extra senses and what's your new body part?
Nick, anything troubling you about this?
I mean, I'm skeptical that the way to control computers in the long term will be by plugging electronics into our brains. I think that there are certain medical applications that can be exciting for people with Parkinson's or epilepsy, depression. But it's actually quite difficult to enhance the capabilities of a normal, healthy human brain. And most of the functionality that you might want to get by these implants, you could get equally well by having the computer outside of your body, and then you interact with it using your eyeballs and your fingertips.
Human body is really, really failing in almost every way. I want to live to be thousands of years old. I don't want to die. I don't understand why anybody would.
Hacker dringen inzwischen nicht nur in Kommunikationssysteme, sondern auch in unsere Körper ein. Unabhängig von der etablierten Medizin arbeiten Biohacker daran, die Grenzen der Evolution zu überwinden. Ich bin in Essen, um den Biohacker Tim Cannon zu treffen. Tim wird hier einen Chip in seinen Unterarm implantiert bekommen, der ihm erlaubt, seine eigenen biometrischen Daten aufzuzeichnen und zu übertragen. Ich möchte herausfinden, ob diese Technologie uns einer Zeit näher bringt, in der jeder ein Cyborg sein kann.
My name's Tim Cannon. I'm with a company called Grindhouse Wetware. We do biohacking, essentially. We build devices that are meant to integrate with the human body. We basically focus on the merging of man and machine in a kind of a DIY context. So this is the Circadia. It's somewhat large.
Once this chip is implanted, what are you going to do with it?
Simply because it simply currently reads my temperature data, I'm basically going to use that to determine if there are certain things that are causing my temperature to fall or rise. Also, I'm probably going to set it up so that it'll send me a text message if it thinks I'm getting a fever. We'll turn on the light on low, and that'll go. As you can see here, we have rates for various signals and where they're being read from.
And this can work on any Android system, so I could get that on my phone and walk past you and hack your arm.
That's absolutely right. You know, and a lot of people tend to ask me, aren't you afraid of that? I'm not really afraid of that. I'm a hacker. I'm doing this. This is very fun, and it's meant to capture people's imagination.
Tell me about the procedure.
What's going to happen is I have this tattoo here, and I'm going to receive an incision here on the tattoo. My skin will be lifted and separated away from its fatty tissues, and the device will be inserted into the pocket that is created, and then it will be sutured shut.
Isn't that gonna hurt like hell?
Yeah, it is. It's really, really gonna hurt. We are not going to be using any anesthetic. I have to do the whole thing, as they say in the piercing and body mod community. I got to do it raw dog. So here we go. This is going right in my arm.
Tim und ich machten uns auf den Weg zur Body Modification Konferenz am Rande der Essener Innenstadt. Dort treffe ich mich mit Steve Harwood, der Tim den Chip einsetzen wird. Als Flash-Engineer führt er seit 20 Jahren Implantationen innerhalb der Szene durch und ist hier eine Legende. How did your whole collaboration with Tim start? How did you meet him?
Tim emailed me and asked me about the process of whether or not I could do it. I told him that if the configuration was appropriate, it was possible. We went and had dinner, discussed it, and then about 5 months later, he sent me his first prototype. Doctors don't do what I do. In the United States, the American Medical Association says modifying the body away from what society considers normal or pleasing, because to some people breasts out to here are pleasing, for a doctor to do that, he'd lose his license. This is the first non-medical computer device ever produced. When we put this in, it will make history.
Das, was Steve und Tim hier machen, mag auf den ersten Blick gar nicht so spektakulär wirken, aber mit ihrem Do-it-yourself-Ansatz sind sie viel radikaler als alles, was gemeinhin als Science-Fiction durchgeht. Tim bekommt jetzt gerade den Chip implantiert. Die einzigen, die bei diesem Eingriff dabei sind, sind Tim, Steve und Steves Assistentin. Ich bin gespannt, ob sie am Ende das Ergebnis bekommen werden, worauf sie so lange hingearbeitet haben. Ich wollte Tim direkt nach der Operation treffen und warte auf ihn in der Lobby seines Hotels.
Hey, man. Hey, how's it going?
Well, how's it going with you? How did it go?
It went well. It went well. A lot of pain, you know, a lot of grunting, a lot of, you know,
shit.
It's pretty large.
That
you know.
is big.
Yeah, as we expected, you know, that sort of thing. You know, obviously you got some wrinkling in the skin. If you can take a look over on the side, it's, you know, pinched there, but it's closed, it's good, you know, it's working. So, want to see?
Sure. Demonstrate that thing.
All right, let's see here. Let me get this, and let's see. All right, connect to device. Make sure this connects. And connected. So let's go ahead and we'll turn on the light.
Can you show me the transmitting of the data? Is that via Bluetooth, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me reconnect. There's some data for you. Wow. And that's, you know, so one more. Bam.
That's amazing.
Right now there's a temperature, but as you can see, it's blank because there's actually an interval. So every so many minutes, it'll turn on the temperature sensor. Now this actually conserves the battery. So it's temperature over time, which is kind of cool, you know, because then you can kind of graph it and chart it and do whatever you want there. You know?
But man, you seem fairly lively. How did the procedure go? Aren't you exhausted?
I'm completely exhausted, but then also filled with adrenaline and filled with excitement. So you can imagine my body's completely in recovery mode because as far as my body knows, basically I just got stabbed many times and I was just in some kind of like medieval battle, you know what I mean, like for my body. So my body's immediately kicked into like, trauma mode.
Do you feel one step closer to being that full cyborg?
Yeah, just one tiny step closer, yep. Absolutely, and happy to be there.
Leute wie Tim sehen die experimentelle Beschleunigung der menschlichen Evolution als eine Do-it-yourself-Aufgabe. Im Angesicht der zunehmenden Verdatung und Vermessung unserer Gesellschaft bleibt aber die Frage, wer überhaupt darüber bestimmen wird, was ein Körper kann und was die menschliche Existenz sein wird.
Medical industry really truly believes that it is unethical to attempt to supersede your limitations. How mad is this? I would like to improve a lot of those inefficiencies. I think that that's the best course of action for preserving conscious thought.
It seems like the bottleneck is not so much the rate at which we can funnel information in and out of the brain, but rather the brain's ability to interpret and make sense of the information.
Gray, you were nodding there, but one thing that is going to be troubling for maybe a few people is even if there are significant medical benefits or just benefits for humanity generally by this kind of thing, it's going to be expensive. One concern might be that it's only the wealthy who are going to be able to afford this kind of treatment. So therefore, down the line, we might have a computer chip-brained wealthy class and a subclass developing under...
In the mountains above the Mojave Desert, far from the nearest hospital or medical research lab, A group of amateur biohackers has received worldwide attention for a series of extreme experiments to upgrade their own bodies. They call it grinding. And right now, their activities are on the fringe of society, medicine, and maybe even the law. I'm going to meet them. Maybe they're at the forefront of a revolution in biomedical technology, or maybe they just like blood. We're now officially in the middle of nowhere in the town of Tehachapi. So we are here to visit sort of the lab, the lair of this group, Science for the Masses. I have no idea what I've gotten myself into, and I think it could get a little weird. I think if all goes well, it will be really fucking weird, to be honest. Here we go. This is where we're headed. Now we're headed down, you know, kind of a gravel road, and it seems sort of more likely we'll come across like a barn or a meth lab than like a biohacking space. I guess this is where I'm gonna, you know, join the biohacking community. Thank you for having us here.
Absolutely, welcome.
Stoked. So yeah, this is an amazingly strange and interesting place. So let's see the rest of the space. Take me behind the plastic curtain.
Behind the plastic curtain.
I'm ready to go back here.
Yeah, okay, so actually...
Jeff is a nurse. Gabriel's unemployed. But out of this converted garage, they captured the world's imagination. Millions of people have read about their experiments, like inventing eye drops that they say give them night vision, and implanting magnets and chips into their bodies. They're amateurs, but maybe they're onto something. So what is a grinder?
People who are interested in augmenting the human body. I mean, what we're really interested in is human augmentation, exploring the boundaries of what the individual can do with science.
How do you guys imagine having your work move into the sort of broader scientific community?
We're not trying to force ourselves into a pre-existing structure. We're making something new. One of the big problems with a lot of the research that's done in those areas is that it usually gets locked up. It's not profitable. We're at least making it accessible to people, and we don't have anyone telling us that we can't do that.
These guys take their work seriously. They believe they're laying the groundwork for a future in which humans enhance themselves with at-home biotechnology, both by taking new drugs and by inserting electronics directly into our flesh. And they're testing it all on themselves. In other words, they'll do the experiments that professional scientists can't or won't.
They are people who think of themselves as doing science, and they're also, just kind of adventurers, almost like on the model of people who've done psychedelics. They're out here to just sort of test the limits of human experience. I think the thing that I haven't quite figured out about this crew is what really motivates them to do this.
Give us the story, just, of how you guys met.
I started working on a project a long time ago and never really got very far with it. I did a lot of the all of the necessary reading and all of this stuff. Work. Yeah, and so I had it pretty well written up, but it got to the point of where now, unless I get an influx of, a good $5,000, it goes nowhere from there, and then he jumped in on the boards and we started talking about this, and it was kind of like, hey, I can make this happen. I can get a hold of this stuff a lot cheaper than what you're sourcing it at. We started talking, and then a week later we had incorporated.
So what procedure are you going to do today?
Today we're doing magnet implants, but we're doing them behind each ear instead of in the fingers, which are the typical locations for magnets. So.
And why are you doing that?
I'm hoping that the same way that you can sort of intuitively detect what direction sounds are coming from, picking up through your ears, that having a magnet behind each ear will hopefully become a more base level, ambient, intuitive sense instead of having to consciously feel for magnetic fields.
This whole realm of electromagnetic frequencies that are coming off of your computer and your cell phone and parts of your car and stuff like that, it's out there and it's invisible because you don't have the ability to sense it. So this hacks one of your senses so that you kind of upgrade, so that you can sense this whole realm of reality that's sitting right in front of you that you never knew was there.
Putting a magnet in the body can give you a power other humans don't have. Once implanted and the nerves regrow around it, the magnets supposedly create the sensation of a light breeze or vibration when your finger gets near an electromagnetic field. It's like a whole new sense. But you have to go under the knife first. And right now, there are no doctors present.
Yeah. Like it stings, but it's intermittent. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. Right now it does.
Once he's made an incision behind Sev's ear, Jeff implants a magnet the size of a small pebble, which will allow her to sense electromagnetic radiation from things like microwaves and cell phones.
So tell me how it went. Like, the magnets are in.
Yeah, they are in. Definitely not too bad. It was definitely better than doing my fingers. Way better than doing my fingers.
That was bananas. There was a scalpel going in the back of her head, kind of digging around. You know, I'm not a body modification specialist. I am but a man interested in technology in the future, you know? The whole thing is a little overwhelming, but I feel like I'm coming to understand like the level of commitment that they have to sort of experimenting with themselves like this, and I actually find it like really impressive, to be honest.
Being able to sense magnetic fields might not seem like the most useful ability, but it is a kind of mini superpower. And grinders like Jeff and Gabriel think that it points the way to the future in which lots of these little enhancements will add up to make the human body much better and more capable than it is today. And there is a long history of people experimenting on themselves. Remember, Jonas Salk first tested the polio vaccine on himself. So I decided I needed to see firsthand what grinding was all about, and I've elected to let them implant a magnet in my finger.
This is like a voluntary thing to, you know, augment my body in a way so I can perceive something that I couldn't before, you know, and not because the doctor told me to do it, but just because I want to. Like, where does it actually
Well, we're actually gonna go here. We're gonna make an incision a little bit below where the nerve would be, and we're gonna tunnel in right here, offset from center, okay? And the reason being that after it heals, you know, you don't want that kind of rock in your shoe type of effect or anything you grasp when the pressure is applied, it causes pain.
If all goes well, I'll have the ability to sense magnetic fields with my hand. Every time I go through an airport security scanner or turn on a microwave, I'll get a little tingle in my finger.
So I'm getting ready to make the incision now. Just don't move.
Just don't move.
If you gotta sneeze, let me know.
Okay, I'm not gonna sneeze. Now comes the tunneling.
Exactly. Feeling a little? Mm-hmm. Right now, we have the magnet. We're ready to go.
Here goes the magnet. Oh, there it is.
Now let's turn it over.
Oh, it's turning?
Yeah, you see it in there?
Mm-hmm.
Just caught the metal.
Yeah, I cut that skizzers. Twisted.
I gotta reposition the magnet, I think, before we close.
No, you should push it through, because the needle is the thing that's stopping it from moving.
I gotta really twist you a bit here.
Do what you need to do. There it is. Oh, yeah.
And the depth is beautiful.
It's in.
Absolutely.
It's actually in. Wow. The incision wasn't really the thing that made me squeamish. It was, you know, this process they were calling tunneling, where they had to actually like go in with the little scalpel into my finger to make a little pocket to put the magnet in. And as Jeff was doing that, I was kind of looking down there, almost like having an out-of-body experience, just like that's my finger being tunneled into by a scalpel. And when can I actually start playing with it?
3 weeks to a month, okay? But don't expect like real high sensitivity at that point. You might be disappointed, but you know what? By like 3 months to 6 months, that's when you're getting real high sensitivity. Yeah.
Ultimately, grinders want to change how we think about human bodies. They think that we're a technology that can be understood and that we can augment our bodies and enhance our senses. So maybe we shouldn't wait to just break down and have medical doctors fix us. These magnets may never catch on, and the experiments that they do may never teach mainstream science anything. But their message, that our bodies are hackable, may become a foundation of the coming century.
How do the social aspects of this get factored in?
Well, there are lots of ethical implications of this technology. The fact is that we are transforming as a species into a technological species. That's a fact.
Whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and begin.
I'm ready.
You good?
how much can I push the human, how much can I consciously evolve the human body to do more, to do it better, to do it faster, to do it stronger. I just want to see how far I can push the human.
Hi, my name is Tim Cannon. I've been working on a small project with my friend Sean Sarver here.
My name is Sean Sarver. I'm a cybernetics engineer by want. I am a barber by trade. I want to see if I can't make the human evolve faster than what nature has allowed it to be.
You know, I say I've wanted to be a robot since I was a little boy, you know what I mean? And it's true, I've wanted to be a robot since I was a little boy, and it looks like I'm getting close. We have two separate power supplies, one going to this solenoid electromagnetic coil that's wrapped around my finger. Embedded in my finger is a neodymium magnet.
I have a little magnet implanted in my pinky, and I've had it for almost 3 years now.
I was alerted to a discussion, and it basically says any kind of electromagnetic field, you'll be able to feel it. And I just thought, oh my goodness, how awesome would it be to see something, and to know the physical shape of something invisible to the naked eye.
Sorry, I was out back. I live with my parents still. I just live in the basement. I moved back in 2008 when I got out of the Air Force. I was an enlistee of the United States Air Force for 6 years. That's how I got a lot of the electronics grounding. Because to do that, the Air Force sent me to a qualifier course called Electronic Principles.
I got a 2-year degree, an associate's in software applications programming. When it comes to where I get the majority of my information, it just ends up being Google, Wikipedia, and then YouTube.
I've worked in piercing and tattoo industry for a few years prior to this.
After I was done in the military, I'd kind of had like a handful of emotional issues and some stress issues, where I was just kind of like a non-functioning civilian. I was just like, I can't do this, I can't do that anymore. I was like frying my brain.
Come on, let's go, you jerk.
It was just kind of like an intellectual exercise it started out as.
We're doing another video here for you. It's just another demo. All right, here we go, test one. This is a device built by cyborgs, for cyborgs.
Just put my finger. We've secretly placed a box in front of Tim while he was blindfolded.
This is our first stab at making something that's truly useful, that is solely meant to interact with people who have implants. We're going to continue to try to bring you the craziest shit you've ever seen in your life.
I think we both realized right then and there, it's like, this is what I'd rather be doing with all of my time.
My name's Tim Cannon.
And I'm Sean Sarver.
We are the development team for Grindhouse Wetwares. Here, I'll come down and show you the lab.
Well,
the lab.
The basement.
Yeah, the basement. Let's take a look here. We also built a transcranial direct stimulation device. It electrocutes your brain.
You like this?
All right, here we go. You ready to get your brains out, buddy?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Don't know how into biohacking you are, but this would be like your first biohack.
Yeah, first grind, first grind.
Did it ever give you like a twitch?
Yeah, you'll get it. Yep, you'll get that. All right, just get ready. You're gonna feel the light.
Okay, so mostly they call me a biohacker. This is experimentation on the lowest of low budgets. Anything can be used to stimulate nerves, provided that it's subdermal and it gives off the correct current. You can't really go wrong.
I saw a couple of talks. One was by Left Anonym, one was by a guy named Kevin Warwick. The one by Kevin Warwick was a really incredible display of what was possible.
This is the sort of implants you could try yourself.
Kevin Warwick, he's the only professor of cybernetics in the world. He's based out of England.
He implanted a chip with 100 pins on a trunk nerve of his arm. And then he was able to, across the ocean, right, maneuver this hand over the internet. Guy's wife gets one, and they do this experiment where she starts to move her hand and he can feel it in his mirrored hand. Now,
I know that maybe this is on the verge of fetishism, but that's about the most intimate thing I can think of on the planet, to actually truly know what somebody's feeling like.
Some of you feel quite bored being a human, quite limited in what you can do. Particularly your brain doesn't perform how it should. So what are the possibilities of an upgrade?
Fundamentally, devices stimulate nerves. All they need to do that is to give off a current. Anything that gives off a current and is safe inside your body can be used as a subdermal device, given some pain.
I think Left Anonym was always a little bit disturbed, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely think she probably had a couple of screws loose, or maybe had too many drinks when she was doing some of these things, because to think that you could put metal in your body without it having a bad reaction is probably a little foolish.
So I sat down in my kitchen with a vegetable peeler, I shit you not, and I decided to put things in my hands.
She's clearly insane. She's not I'm not gonna lie and state we're scientists and stuff, but we do try to apply the scientific method, come up with a hypothesis, test it, and find the results. I mean, she's just doing crazy, insane shit.
The first time I ever sat down, it went horribly, horribly wrong. The whole thing went septic, and I put myself in the hospital for 2 weeks.
There's this this self-destructive aesthetic quality about it, but I wouldn't say that's the head for everyone.
A lot of people really go a lot deeper into it than I guess I do. For me, it was something I read about that just interested me deeply, and it's something that kind of just sat in the back of my mind, and that I just thought it would be really interesting to be able to experience this world that nobody else could.
I now have a digital input channel, and once you have that, you really have the beginning of the first computer interfaces in these very natural ways. You pretty much have two ways to go. There's the medical field, and then there's the piercers. And frankly, the piercers are just much more willing to talk about it. It's been a lot of just people talking about various procedures that they want to do and how they would go about doing them, and then giving it a try. And sometimes that's scary, and sometimes it works out.
We're on our way into Pittsburgh proper. We're going to hot rod piercings. I'm gonna get a tiny rare earth metal implanted in my ring finger. It's gonna give me a sixth sense, the ability to feel electromagnetic fields.
You have all of these colleges here, some of them specializing in things like, robotics and artificial intelligence and deep computer stuff, some of them focusing on medicine. For a while, the city was dying, and so you have this kind of element of anti-authority, freaks are welcome, angry, pissed off youth kind of vibe going on. No shortage of freaks here, and that's great. And so when you have technology and biomedical research and a pissed off, angry population that loves tattoos converging together, this is bound to happen. And why Pittsburgh? It's got the right amount of fuck you. I guess you're getting one, right?
Yeah.
And then you're getting one, right?
Yeah. You want the magnet to sit right around there?
Yeah, right around there. The line's where the incision goes, the circle's where the magnet's gonna end up.
Whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and begin.
I'm ready.
You good? Okay. So I'm gonna put a good amount of pressure on your finger here. And I'm gonna go ahead and take a nice deep breath in for me. And let that out. And just keep on blowing that out.
I believe there would be people who would state that the piercer who does the magnet implants and people do body modification are technically committing assault on you. Going the DIY route is you're obviously circumnavigating the government agencies that would be normally involved in a project like that, like the FDA. Is it approved? It's a legal gray area where I have that kind of control over what I do with my body, but there are laws on books that could be read in a manner that would state that I don't have that freedom and liberty.
Just one more little knot here. And if you would like, we can experience your first little magnetic trick.
Sure.
Come down and...
Oh, that is so cool. That is awesome and totally worth all of the little bit of pain that was.
Nice.
Hell yeah, man.
So we'll just clean you up and bandage you up and you'll be good to go.
Awesome.
Go ahead and take a nice deep breath in for me and let that out.
Feels really warm, all that blood. It's nice and warm.
Just keep the breathing. Just keep
Lift
it
up here,
nice
just
and
keep on
deep,
breathing.
steady the whole time. It's like a 400% increase in cyborg population in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh cyborg community is growing faster than any cyborg community in the world.
October, the CEO will be in the loop to talk earnings and the state of the housing market.
Honey, what day is it?
You've got to be kidding me.
Get your truly free credit score at creditkarma.com. There's just too much noise, too much information.
Society is definitely changing and evolving, and there might be a time when procedures such as this, implants, are a lot more mainstream. In order for that to happen, the procedure for getting these done needs to be also advanced a lot more, because going to somebody and having them cut open your finger and put something in is still going to make a lot of people cringe and make a lot of people seem that it's not worth it.
People can't understand because it's so simple and small, but it adds such a layer of richness in data that, you know, to not do it seems insane to me.
So one nice thing I do like about being a barber is like I can talk about this stuff to regular people. I can hear like their thoughts and feelings on it, and they think it's all possible, it's all real, it's all almost here. It's like 10, 15 years away. It's just like, it's not that far away. It doesn't have to be that far away.
I view it as kind of taking the pain for the people who are going to come after me. You know, you take the pain now, we're paying now, so that it will become socially acceptable later. Companies, you know, mega corporations that can actually bring this stuff to market because they can pay to get through the red tape and pay to get through the bureaucracy, they're gonna get that money back in spades.
Tim and I don't imagine we'll be the only people making cyber, even if we're the most successful we could possibly imagine. We want to be the only company. There's gonna be someone out there who's like, I have $8 billion to spend on this.
Nobody's gonna want to get surgeries for that stuff. They will or they'll be left behind. They have no choice. You know what I mean? Do you want to be obsolete?
I want to make myself faster, not so I'm a better killing machine, I just want to be faster. Like, fuck cheetahs, why should they be the fastest thing? I'm curious to see if it is possible to consciously push human evolution to a post-human being. You know, I'm curious to see if that is possible. I want to see if I can do that, if I'm capable of doing that.
And the uptake for technology is usually from the top down. That we've known that through history. So I don't expect that this is going to be something that's going to be available to everyone in the beginning. There will be a trickle-down effect of this technology, but the fact is that it is a transformative time on this planet, and we are transforming into a new species, a technological species. So I don't think, even if you wanted to stop this, now that Elon Musk has sort of put it on the map, I don't think you could stop it now anyway.
Nick, are you ready to be an app-enabled human?
Well, if it really worked, if it gave me genuine benefits at limited risks, I'd love a life extension pill or a cognitive enhancement cocktail, or a brain implant for that matter. But I think that the technical challenge is in actually getting it to work. And a lot of the time it's the little details. Like current brain implants kind of work in principle, but they tend to move around, they're not very stable, there is collateral damage when you implant them. So getting all of those things, so you don't want infections when you sort of, you know, drill through the skull. Getting all of those things. And we see it with a lot of other medical technologies. Sometimes the concept is quite simple. Every year there is a new cure for cancer discovered, but then when you actually try to roll it out, you find that there are all these kind of complications when you interact with complicated metabolic processes in biochemistry.
Great, you talk almost about the inevitability of this. It's something that's going to happen whether we want it or not, but presumably, just to ease public concerns, someone's going to have to parent all this. And who's it going to be? Chancing corporations? Is it going to be panicking governments? Ill-informed public over this thing? Somebody's got to keep close watch on this. Who's going to do that?
Well, I think that's the responsibility of every person
or?
that's involved in the development. It's all of our responsibilities. I mean, we have a responsibility as a society, as a species, to make sure that these technologies don't get out of hand. I mean, Nick has covered this quite extensively in Superintelligence, his book in Superintelligence. The idea that a superintelligent AI could take off within a matter of hours is not science fiction. This is something that could potentially happen in the future.
So how do you know it won't be out of control?
But just to clarify quickly here,
how would you know it couldn't get out of control?
Well, no, that is possible. It is possible. And I think that's, well, that is possible. And I think that's why Elon wants to augment our brains, is because he wants to be able to compete with these machines and sort of be able to play in their playing field. But I want to clarify the technical part of this for people really quickly. There are different levels to this. The primary out-of-body level is the EEG system, where you're just putting electrodes on the scalp and you're reading the brain waves, and it's controlling a computer, okay? That's non-invasive. You can take that off. You can remove that technology. It's not inside your body. Then there's the secondary level, where the neural lace or the neural link is actually put on top of the brain inside the skull. That's even more invasive. And then the third level is actually putting implants deep inside of the brain. I don't think ethically we're ready for deep implants yet for the general public, and it's also not going to be available for the general public for quite a while, so we don't have to really worry about that yet.
Nick, is there a bit too much fear of the unknown then from where you're sitting?
Well, where I'm sitting, I see that this century might be transformative for humanity, that we're discovering all kinds of things that will fundamentally change the human condition. So I think it is worth paying attention. They're small steps, but they add up to a long stretch of distance. And if in this century we might finally transform the human condition into some kind of, well, unknown, a post-human condition, then yeah, it's worth paying attention. And certainly there are things to be concerned about there, as well as to be hopeful about.
Gray, how do you make the public accept that this is for their benefit, not something for them to fear? Like I said, stuff where technology advances exponentially and it's all good news for us. In movie terms, that's never box office gold, is it?
Well, you definitely don't want to tell people that it's going to be like The Matrix, the negative side of The Matrix. There was also a positive side of The Matrix, if you remember the movie. I think a lot of it has to do with the medical benefits. So if you are in a situation where you have a family member who is locked in, where they can't communicate with the outside world, this technology is going to change their lives. It allows them to communicate with the outside world. But for entertainment purposes, for cognitive upgrading, that's an elective idea. And I do think that if we follow the idea that Elon Musk is sort of presenting here, that his fear is that artificial intelligence will get out of our hands, and to compete with that artificial intelligence, to use this technology to compete with that, to me, it's also it's relevant, but you have to make it safe for people. It's actually very complicated and very risky to drill into the brain, so that's not something you want to do on a whim. But some of these enhancements are going to advance. We know that for sure. And what we're really talking about right now, this primary stage, is sort of the steam engine phase of this technology. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the beginning of this technology.
But Nick, I suppose although it sounds good that we've got someone as philanthropic as Elon Musk who's behind it at the moment, once that technology is out in the public domain, then I suppose it becomes a bum fight over who controls it, who develops it, doesn't it?
Well, probably it would be regulated as a medical device technology if we're thinking of things that actually breach the skull. So right now there are quite rigorous regulatory regimes for introducing new medical treatments, and this might fall into that category. Now, if you're talking about things outside your skull, yeah, that's different then. But there's a question of how much functional increase can you actually get by just reading off EEG signals. I mean, that would be an interesting thing to explore.
And what about further down the line, though, thinking in terms of where technology is developed in one realm for the benefit of another? So space technology for NASA has benefited medical science exponentially over the years. Similarly, military developments have helped us all. We've all got a GPS somewhere on us, haven't we, on our phones or in our cars. If this is being developed for medical science, why can't it then be transferred to military uses? Is that a worry?
I mean, I think that pretty much any technology that has broad applications, like in particular any technology that enhances human capacities, but any technology that makes a little machine more efficiently, like, could of course be used for military purposes as well as for all kinds of other purposes. But unless you have some general objection to just making technology more efficient because some of it could potentially be applied in military context, then I don't see why that would be a particularly large concern in this area.
Gray, just in a few seconds, if you could.
I also want... Yeah, I also want to say quickly that the brain is truly the final frontier, and that is where we're going now. We are looking at technology as a portal inward now instead of outward. You know, it used to be that technology took us away from where we were, and now it's actually going inward. We're moving towards the unconscious mind. And this is just the first step in that evolution.
Yeah, I like the idea of brains being the final frontier, but I can guarantee that, gentlemen, yours are far more formidable than mine. We have to leave it there. Future technology experts and philosophers Nick Bostrom and Gray Scott, thanks very much for joining us.